Okay, so let's now continue with the discussion on negotiable instruments. So we'll start from section 11, presumption as to date. Well, in section 11, it simply provides that if your instrument is dated, your acceptance is dated, or your endorsement is dated, such date is deemed prima facie to be the true date of the making, drawing, acceptance, or endorsement, as the case may be. So there is a presumption as to the date in the instrument. So if the instrument, if it's a promissory note, and the instrument, that promissory note bears a date, that date is presumed to be the true date of the making of the promissory note. If it's a bill of exchange and there is a date of issuance, then that is the true date, presumed to be the true date of the drawing of the instrument. If it has been endorsed and the endorsement is again dated, that date is again presumed to be the true date of the endorsement. And if it is a bill of exchange and it was accepted and the acceptance is dated, such date of the acceptance is again presumed to be the true date of the acceptance. Take note, I constantly made mention of the term or the word presume. Why is that? Because the dates of that making, drawing, acceptance, or endorsement, as the case may be, is only presumed prima facie. It's not conclusive. It's only disputable. It's rebuttable. Okay? It's disputable. Because prima facie means it is an evidence sufficient to support a conclusion in the meantime unless proven otherwise. In other words, in the absence of any evidence pointing to the contrary, then that date of the instrument, which is a promissory note, that is presumed to be the true date of the making. If it's a bill of exchange, that is presumed to be the true date of the drawing. If it's acceptance, then presumed to be the true date of the acceptance. If it's endorsement, then it's presumed to be the true date of the endorsement. Okay? Now, going on further. Section 12, antedating or postdating of an instrument. What is this antedating or postdating of an instrument all about? Antedating, the instrument is said to be antedated if the date so indicated is earlier than the true date of the issuance. Postdate, if the date so written in the instrument is later than the true date of the instrument. Take note, in antedating or postdating of the instrument, do not consider the date of the issuance. Do not consider the maturity date of the instrument. Okay? It's not the maturity date of the instrument which is to be considered. Rather, it is the date of the instrument which is to be considered. So take, for example, today is October 1, 2020. So as a rule, if I will issue a promissory note today, October 1, 2020, I am expected to place the date October 1, 2020. But if instead of placing October 1, 2020 as the date of the issuance of the instrument, I will instead place September 1, 2020. Then what did I just done? What did I just do? I have antedated my instrument because the date so indicated thereon is earlier than the true date of the instrument. Instead of placing October 1, 2020, I have placed September 1, 2020, earlier than October 1. How about if instead of placing October 1, 2020, the true date of issuance of the instrument, I will now place the date December 1, 2020. Ano ang ginawa ko? I have postdated my instrument because the date that I have reflected as the date of the instrument is now later than the true date of issuance. Instead of placing October 1, I have now placed December 1, 2020, a date later than October 1. Okay? Now, is antedating or postdating of an instrument allowed? Well, as a rule, antedating or postdating of an instrument is allowed. It is prohibited only if it has been done for an illegal or for a fraudulent purpose. Take, for example, the following. Okay, so I promise to pay Mary or order 1 million, dagdagan na lang natin, 5 days after date. Okay, so 5 days after date. If I will date that instrument today, because today is October 1, 2020, the maturity date of that instrument now would be on October 6, 2020, correct? But how about if instead of placing October 1, 2020 as the true date of the instrument, I instead placed it September 1, 2020? Anong ginawa ko? I antedated the instrument, and antedating of the instrument is allowed, right? But if I have place September 1, 2020 so that the instrument will now immediately become due and demandable, then I have antedated it for an illegal or for a fraudulent purpose. That being the case, that is not allowed. So, what will happen? If an instrument is antedated or postdated, if you are the holder, if you are the recipient of that instrument, when will you acquire title of that instrument? Would it be on the date appearing on the face of the instrument? Or would it be on the date you actually receive the instrument? What is our rule? Under Section 12, ano ang sinasabi doon? The person to whom the instrument so dated is delivered acquires title thereto as of the date of the delivery. It is not the date so inserted. It is not the antedated date. It is not the postdated date, but rather it is on the date of the delivery. Okay? So that's antedating or postdating of your instrument. Going on further, again, kagaya ng sinabi ko, I just want to stress on you that antedating or postdating of instrument, you consider not the maturity date. Rather, you consider the date of the issuance. Ano yung sinasabi ko na yun? Take for example, balikan natin yan. I promise to pay Mary or order 1 million pesos on, maglagay tayo ng due date dyan, on December 1, 2020. Pero yung date na inilagay ko sa instrument is today, October 1, 2020. Did I antedate it? Did I postdate it? No, I did not. Because I still placed the correct date of issuance, which is October 1, 2020. Yung December 1, 2020, that is the maturity date. Yun yung sinasabi ko na do not consider the maturity date. What is to be considered if you antedate, if you postdate an instrument, is the date of the issuance. If it is earlier, ante. If it is later, then it is post. Section 13, we have already discussed this one in passing before. The two instances where the holder has the prima facie authority again to insert the true date on the instrument. Take note, who has the authority to insert the true date? It is the holder, the possessor. It is the person who is in physical possession of the instrument. Eh sir, ako po yung payee ng instrument. Pinahawak ko yan kay X. As between us, who has now the authority to insert the true date? Sabi natin, holder. As between you and yung pinag-abutan mo, who is the holder? Siya. So, he is the person who is the prima facie authority to insert the true date in the instrument. And what are those two instances? Whereby the holder now of the instrument has that authority, has that disputable or the rebuttable authority to insert the true date. Maalala nyo ba yun? Where an instrument expressed to be payable at a fixed period after date is issued undated. And then the other one is where an instrument payable or accepted at a fixed period after sight is again undated. Okay? So take for example the first one. Where an instrument is expressed to be payable at a fixed period after date is issued undated. Okay? So I promise to pay Senon or order 10,000 pesos 60 days after date. Sign, Alex. That is your instrument. If you notice in the slide, there is no date of issuance. So I promise to pay Senon or order 10,000 60 days after date. Sign, Alex. There is no date. Is it possible for you to identify the due date of your instrument if you will not indicate the date of issuance? Hindi, di ba? But there is a remedy on that. Under Section 13, if you are the holder, you have the right, you have the authority to place the correct date. And what will be the correct date that you will indicate here under Section 17? Okay? Paragraph 3, presumption as to issuance of the instrument. So in that situation, Section 17, ano sinasabi niya doon? The instrument is presumed to be dated on the date it was issued. So assuming that it was issued today, then that's the date that you will indicate there, October 1, 2020. So in that situation, if you will now place the date, October 1, 2020, as the date of the instrument here, when will be the maturity date? So 31 ang October, tapos November, that will now be on November 29, 60 days after date. Because the date that you will indicate there would be October 1. Tama ba yung pag-compute natin? Exclude the first day, include the last day. Or would it be November 30? November 30 yata. Okay? So anyway, so exclude the first day, include the last day. And then how about the second one? where the acceptance of an instrument payable at a fixed period after sight is again undated. What is undated here? Is it the instrument? No, it's not. It's not the bill of exchange, which is undated. What is undated here is the date of the acceptance. Take, for example, pay to the order of X 10,000 pesos 60 days after sight. Okay, 60 days after sight. Now, what happened? Sabi niya dito, A, the drawer issued that instrument to X, the payee. Payee thereafter presented it to B, to the drawee for his acceptance. Ano ang ginawa ni B, ni drawee? He accepted the instrument. So, sulat siya dyan, accepted. For one reason or another, he forgot to place the date of the acceptance. So, halimbawa, ganito yung situation natin. So, A issued that to X on September 1. September 2, pumunta si X kay B, presented that instrument for acceptance. Ano ang ginawa ni B, ni drawee? He did not immediately accept the instrument. Rather, sabi niya kay X, X, iwanan mo yung instrument dyan sa table ko. Balikan mo after 10 days. That was September 2. Pagbalik niya, on September 12, he noticed that it was already accepted. But lo and behold, it was only accepted. The date of the acceptance was not indicated. So, how will you now compute the due date of the instrument? Kasi sabi niya doon, 60 days after sight. Ang tanong, kailan ba nakita ni B yung instrument? Did he really accept that on September 2? Or was it accepted on September 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10? In that situation, di mo alam, di ba? But if you are the holder, again, under Section 13, you have again the authority to insert the correct date of the instrument. But the question is, what correct date are you going to insert? Under Section 136 of the Negotiable Instruments Law, ano ang sinasabi doon? Sabi niya doon, under Section 136, the drawee is allowed 24 hours after presentment within which to decide whether to accept or to reject the instrument. And once accepted, it shall be dated on the date of the presentation. So, it does not matter really when he actually accepted it, because the acceptance is presumed to have been made on the date it was presented for acceptance. Huwag kang maglagay dyan ng September 3 or 4 or 10. Ha? Ang ilagay mo na lang na date is the date of the presentment. And when did you present the instrument for acceptance? You presented it on September 2. So you compute 60 days from September 2 of 2020. Okay? So 28 days na kaagad yun, plus 32 days, that would be November 1. Tama? So that will be the due date of your instrument. Okay? In-stress ko dito that the holder must insert the true date. So what? Ano bang penalty kung naglagay ako dyan ng kung ano-anong date? Meron bang effect? Well, Section 13. Ano po bang sinasabi doon sa Section 13? Tingnan natin. Effect of inserting the wrong date. What will be the effect? Sabi niya dito, knowingly inserting the wrong date in an undated instrument will avoid the instrument as to the party inserting the wrong date. Take note, deliberately, willfully, purposely inserting the wrong date will now render your instrument void insofar as the person who inserted that wrong date. Take for example, gamitin natin yung example natin kanina. Ito, I promise to pay Senon or order 10,000 pesos 60 days after date, sign Alex. Si Senon, alam niya that the date that should be inserted here should be October 1, 2020, right? Pero anong ginawa niya? Gusto niya, sabi niya, kailangan ko na talaga yung 10,000 na yan. Hindi ko na mahintay yung 60 days na yan. So, anong gagawin niya? Antedate yung instrument. Ilagay na lang niya dyan, July 1 of 2020, so that immediately the instrument now becomes due and demandable. Now, what will be the effect of knowingly inserting the wrong date? Sabi dito, knowingly inserting the wrong date will avoid the instrument insofar as the party who inserted the wrong date. So insofar as Senon is concerned, the person who inserted the wrong date, this promissory note now is a void instrument. And being a void instrument, ibig sabihin, he can no longer collect the 10,000 from Alex. Tama? Okay, ngayon. How about if, after inserting the wrong date, ano ang ginawa ngayon ni Senon? Xenon thereafter negotiated the instrument to another person. Obviously, he negotiated that instrument bearing the wrong date. Kasi ang nakalagay doon is July 1 of 2020 instead of October 1, 2020. What will be the effect if that instrument bearing the wrong date has been negotiated by the person who placed that wrong date? Anong effect? Yan. The insertion of the wrong date does not avoid the instrument in the hands of a subsequent holder in due course. But as to him, the date so inserted will now be regarded as the true date of the instrument. How is that? Di ba sabi natin, si Xenon kanina, he inserted the wrong date. Instead of placing October 1, ang nilagay niya, July 1, 2020. And thereafter, sabi natin, kung hawak ni Xenon yung instrument, the instrument is still a void instrument. But if Xenon now will negotiate that to Yankee, for example, i-deliver niya sa ibang tao, then, what will happen? Will Yankee acquire a good title from the instrument? Well, it depends. Sagot mo doon. It depends. It depends on what? It depends on whether Yankee is a holder in due course or not. If Yankee is a holder in due course, then he will acquire a good title from the instrument. And insofar as he is a holder in due course, the date so inserted will now be considered as the true date thereon. But if Yankee is a holder not in due course, then it's still a void instrument. Take note of that. Void pa rin kung holder not in due course siya. Because ang sinasabi sa Section 13, the insertion of a wrong date will not avoid the instrument, will not render the instrument void if the subsequent transferee, the subsequent holder of the instrument is a holder in due course. But if it's a holder not in due course, well, void pa rin yung instrument. Okay? Now, siguro, ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng holder in due course? Who is a holder in due course? Well, if you want to know who is a holder in due course, that's found in Section 52. Okay? So, who is a holder in due course? Holder in due course is one who has taken the instrument under the following conditions. That is complete and regular upon space, that he became a holder in instrument before overdue, when without notice the instrument has been previously dishonored, such was the fact that he took it in good faith and for value, that the time it was negotiated, he was no notice of any infringement of the title of rights. Okay, nakakahon lang po yun. If you were able to meet all those requirements in Section 52, then you are a holder in due course. Otherwise, you are a holder not in due course. Okay. More discussion on that later. But if you want really to know who's a holder in due course, tingnan nyo na lang kung ano yung mga requirements of being a holder in due course. Section 14. When blanks may be inserted. 14, 15, 16. Magkakakonect lang po yan. Okay? So, allow nyo lang ako, palitan natin yung sinishare natin para okay. So, dito tayo. In Section 14, ano ba yung andito? The instrument is incomplete. However, it is delivered. In Section 15, the instrument is incomplete and at the same time, undelivered. In Section 16, the instrument is complete, but it is undelivered. Ganyan lang po yan. Okay? So, sabi ko nga, magkakakonect yan. Ang common denominator ng 14 and 16 is Section 15. So, Section 14, the instrument is incomplete. However, it is delivered. In Section 16, it is incomplete and undelivered. Section 16, it's complete. However, it is undelivered. Section 14, which deals with what we call as incomplete instrument. There are two kinds of incomplete instrument. Yung tinatawag nila na instrument which is one thing in a material particular. Okay, one thing in a material particular. So that's the first kind of incomplete instrument. And then the other one is an instrument which, or a signature, a blank signature, signature that has been placed in a blank piece of paper, delivered to another, okay, subsequently delivered, with the intention of converting it into a negotiable instrument. Okay? So, ganyan. These are the two kinds of incomplete instruments. An instrument which is wanting in a material particular, and the other one is you affix your signature in a blank piece of paper, you deliver that blank piece of paper to another with the intention of converting it into a negotiable instrument. Okay? So, yun po yun. Now, going back to this one, wanting in a material particular. Okay, so wanting in a material particular. First one, where the instruments wanting in a material particular. Ano ba yung material particular na yan? Wanting, ibig sabihin nun, there is an omission in an instrument. And that material particular is a portion in the instrument, okay, that has been omitted. If you will omit something in an instrument, it will either render the instrument non-negotiable or the instrument remains to be a negotiable instrument. Okay, so where the instrument is wanting in a material particular, what are the requisites? Material particular, possession thereof by a third person, that such person had the authority to fill up the blank. Again, under section 14, sino ba yung authority, yung person who is authorized to fill up the blank? Holder. Okay? And then the instrument has already been delivered to another. And then the instrument is wanting in a material particular. Tingnan ko nga yung slide ko kung meron tayong example. Ayan. So material particular. Ano ba yung material particular being alluded to in this section 14? Material particular, it's an omission which renders the instrument non-negotiable, or an omission which will not at all affect the negotiable character of the instrument. Ibig sabihin, kulang pero negotiable pa rin. Yung isa, kulang pero non-negotiable na. But still, they are wanting in a material particular. So the first one, particular omission which will now render the instrument non-negotiable. Example of that, there is no named payee. There is no named drawer. No name payee in an order instrument. I just want to clarify that. No name payee in an order instrument. There is no drawer in a bill of exchange. Kulang. Material particular. Instrument is non-negotiable. Covered yan ng Section 14 if it is delivered. Paragraph B. Particular omission, but it will not render the instrument not render the instrument non-negotiable. So the instrument remains to be negotiable. So ano yung mga yon? Section 6, omissions. There is no date, the rate of interest was not indicated, the place of payment, the place of issuance were not indicated. Okay. So those are omissions which will not at all affect the negotiable character of the instrument. So ano ang gagawin natin dito? So that this instrument, which is wanting in a material particular, will be enforceable against those individuals whose signature appeared thereon prior to completion. Ano ang requirement? Si holder, okay, who has the authority to insert or to complete that instrument, he has to complete it in accordance with the authority given and within a reasonable time. Dalawa yung requirements, ha? The holder of the instrument should complete it in accordance with the authority given and within a reasonable time. Saglit lang. Okay, so let's provide an example of an instrument which is wanting in a material particular and it is already considered non-negotiable. I promise to pay blank or order 1 million or order and then even blank amount. Signed A. So that's an instrument which is considered wanting in a material particular and it is considered non-negotiable because firstly, there is no payee and it's payable to order. Remember, it's payable to order. The payee must be named rather was indicated therein with reasonable certainty. And then there is no sum certain in money. So it's the second situation whereby the instrument is considered as non-negotiable. So in this situation, whoever is the holder of this instrument has again the prima facie authority to complete the entries therein. Okay? So how will he complete it? See to it that if the holder will complete the instrument, he should follow the instruction that was given to him. And he should fill it up within a reasonable time. You know what's a reasonable time? Reasonable time is not a fixed period of time. It's a time which is based upon prevailing or surrounding circumstances. Halimbawa, naglagay tayo dito ng maturity date on, sabi niya, December 1, 2020. So what will be the reasonable time there? Reasonable time could be any day before December 1, 2020 because that is the due date, supposed due date of your instrument. Kung nilagay ko dyan na ang due date niya is October 10, 2020, then the reasonable time that I need to, that is being referred to here is any day before October 10, 2020. Okay, so dapat mas maaga doon sa due date. So if I am the holder, I have to fill it up in accordance with the authority given. So in accordance with the authority given. So anong nangyari dito sa case natin na to? Okay, so A, for example, issued that instrument to X with the instruction that he should place his name as payee. So place name as payee and to place the amount of 1 million as the consideration of that promissory. So X here, being the holder of the instrument, he should fill it up before October 10, 2020 within a reasonable time and place his name as the payee. Ilalagay niya dyan yung pangalan niya. Okay, so ilagay niya dyan, X, and then place the amount of 1 million pesos. Okay, so ganun dapat ang gawin niya. But how about if for one reason or another, X did not indicate his name as the payee. Rather, he negotiated the instrument again to another person. So, gumawa na naman siya, X, instead of placing it, he negotiated the instrument. Okay? So, he negotiated the instrument to Y. So, as between X and Y, who has now the authority to complete that instrument, then it is now Y who has the authority to complete that instrument. But, ano ulit? Paano niya ulit i-fill up yan? He should fill it up in accordance with the instruction given. So still, kapag tinanggap niya yan, he should still place the name of X and then place the amount of 1 million pesos. Kung Y, ninegotiate niya yan sa ibang tao, to Z na naman yan, then ganun din. Follow the instruction. Why is that? So that if this instrument will be completed, then it will be binding as against those individuals whose signature appeared thereon prior to completion. Okay, so assuming that this instrument now is in the possession of Zeni, our present holder. Same instruction, that the payee's name is X and that the amount to be indicated is 1 million. So how should Zeni accomplish this instrument so that he can and she can enforce it against Y, against X, and against A? Bakit silang tatlo? Because they are those individuals whose signature appeared in that instrument prior to completion. A being the maker, X and Y being the endorsers of the instrument. So, anong dapat gawin ni Zeni? Zeni should place the name of X and she should place the amount of 1 million so that she can collect from Y or from X or from A, the maker of that instrument. Okay? Same scenario din yan. If yung sinasabi natin na okay, erase natin yan. Okay, same scenario rin. If the instrument is wanting a material particular, however, the instrument is negotiable, such as there is no date. So, for example, 5 days after date, I promise to pay to X or order 1 million, signed A. Is that negotiable? If you notice, there is no date of acceptance. There is no date of issuance of the instrument. So, no date of issuance. No date of issuance. Yan. Wala. So, 5 days after date, I promise to pay X or order 1 million. Is it negotiable or non-negotiable? That is negotiable. That is a date is an omission, which will not at all affect the negotiable character of your instrument. Okay? Ngayon, this instrument was later on given. Okay? So, it was later on handed over by A. So, he issued to X, and then X to Y, Y to Zeni, present holder of the instrument. Okay? So, sino ngayon ang may karapatan na mag-complete doon sa instrument? Who has the authority to insert the correct date of issuance? It would be Zeni, the holder. So, anong date nang ilalagay niya? Again, Section 13. Okay, so ano yung date na ilalagay mo? The date when the instrument was issued to you. Okay, so dapat isulat niyo dyan, ni Zenny, she should place the date, October 1, October 1 of 2020. Yun dapat ang isulat niya dyan. Okay, so sulat niyo dyan, October 1, 2020. Yun dapat ang nakasulat dito. Yan. So that Zenny can enforce this instrument against Y, against X, against A. These three individuals whose signature appeared thereon prior to completion. Okay? Ganon din naman yung sa third or second scenario ng Section 14, a signature that has been affixed in a blank piece of paper with the delivered to another with the instruction to convert it into a negotiable instrument. So take for example, blank piece of paper. So halimbawa, papel lang yan. Ha? Just imagine that that's a blank, that is a bond paper. Halimbawa. Ha? Tapos sinulat dyan, no? Signed A. O, ganyan lang. No other entries except the signature. Tapos ano ang ginawa ni A? A thereafter, A, he issued it to B with instruction that B will place a promissory note above that signature, okay? Above that signature in blank, and place the amount and place his name, okay, as payee with the amount with the amount of 1 million. Yan ang instruction. So B, being the holder, has again the authority to complete this instrument. So ano dapat gawin ni Kwan dito? Ang dapat na gawin ni B dito? Ang dapat gawin ni B dito, on top of this signature of A, gagawa na siya dyan ng promissory note. I promise to pay, etc., etc. To pay B the amount of 1 million pesos. Okay? So same lang yung scenario. Or if not, if B will not complete that instrument, ang ginawa niya, B will issue it to C, C to D, D to E, D to F, okay, F to G, okay, si Gary, halimbawa. So Gary now has the authority again to place or to complete this instrument. So ano lang ang gagawin ni Gary? Gagawa ulit siya ng promissory note dyan. I promise to pay. Gary ba ang isusulat? No. He has to follow the instruction, which is to place the name of B as the pay. So I promise to pay B or order the amount of 1 million pesos signed A. So that Gary can claim from F, from E, from D, from C, from B, and from A. Because these individuals are persons who affix their signature in the instrument prior to completion. Basta tandaan nyo yun. So that's the instrument under Section 14 so that it will be enforceable against those individuals whose signature appear thereon prior to completion. It is necessary that you have to follow or you have to fill it up in accordance with the instruction given and within a reasonable time. Reasonable time, it depends upon prevailing or surrounding circumstances. It's not a fixed period of time. Tapos ang importante rin doon, you follow the instruction. Kung sinabi ang ilagay mo na amount, 1 million, 1 million lang. Huwag mong dagdagan. Halimbawa, si Gary, instead of placing 1 million lang, he placed 11 million. Do you think Gary can enforce payment from F, from E, D, C, B, A? No. Kasi sabi doon, if you want to enforce that instrument for payment against those individuals whose signature appeared thereon prior to completion, it is necessary that you have to fill it up in accordance with the authority given and within a reasonable time. You have to remember that. Okay? Now, going on further. Saan na ba yung sinishare natin? Okay, so ito na. As a defense, itong Section 14 pala na to, it is a defense. It is only a personal defense. Anong ibig sabihin? Take nyo to. If any, sabi niya, whether filled properly or not, the instrument after completion is negotiated to holder in due course. It is valid and effectual for all purposes in his hands as if it has been filled up strictly in accordance with the authority given and within a reasonable time. Take for example, our last example. Diba, yung pirma lang ni A, tapos dineliver niya kay B, B to C, D, E, hanggang nakarating kay Gary. Halimbawa si Gary, sinulat niya doon yung pangalan niya, I promise to pay Gary. He did not place the name of B anymore. I promise to pay Gary or order and then place the amount of 11 million. He did not fill it up in accordance with the authority given. He did not also fill it up within a reasonable time. Can Gary enforce payment against A, B, C, D, E, F? Sabi natin, no. Because it was not filled up in accordance with the authority given and within a reasonable time. However, if Gary, yung nag-complete ng instrument, will negotiate that, for example, to H, who is a holder in due course, can H demand payment from Gary for the entire amount of 11 million? Oh naman, siya yung guilty. Is A, B, C, D, E, F liable to H? Even if Gary did not fill it up in accordance with the authority given? The answer is yes. Ito yung sinasabi dun. Whether filled properly or not, whether it was filled up within a reasonable time, if that instrument has been negotiated to a holder in due course, it would still be a valid instrument, as if it has been filled up strictly in accordance with the authority given and within a reasonable time. Okay? So, halimbawa, ganito. So, blank piece of paper, signed A. And then, ang ginawa niya, A, he delivered that to B, B to C, C to D, D to E. Instruction is for B to place his name as payee and place the amount of 1 million. Okay? So, same instruction has been relayed by B to C, C to D, D to E. E being the present holder. But when that instrument was filled up, ano ang ginawa ngayon ni E when he completed that instrument? Ganito ang ginawa niya. I promise to pay B or order 11 million. So it was not filled up in accordance with the authority given. So if ever E will demand payment from D or from C, from B, from A, they can refuse to pay because it was not filled up in accordance with the authority given, in accordance with the instruction. E did not follow the instruction. Kaya they can refuse to pay. But how about if si E dito, ang ginawa niya, he negotiated the instrument to F. Okay? Can F demand payment from A, B, C, D, E? A, B, C, and D? Ayan muna, huwag natin sama si E. A, B, C, and D. Can F demand payment from A, B, C, and D? If that is the question, you have to qualify your answer. Bakit? It depends na naman. Well, you have to qualify on whether F is a holder in due course or not. If he's a holder in due course, H in due course, then he can. But if he is a holder not in due course, okay, not in due course, then the answer would be, if he's a holder not in due course, then the answer would be no. Okay? So, even if it was not filled up strictly in accordance with the authority given, if the subsequent holder is a holder in due course, he can still enforce payment against A, B, C, and D. Because A, B, C, and D cannot refuse to pay H being a holder in due course. Kasi ang defense lang nila is mechanically incomplete but delivered instrument. It is a personal defense. Personal defense, ibig sabihin, it's a valid defense only against a holder not in due course, but not against a holder in due course. Because H is a holder in due course. Because F is a holder in due course. That personal defense is not valid against him. But if it so happens that F is a holder not in due course, he was not able to meet the requirements under Section 52, then F cannot collect from A, B, C, and D. Because A, B, C, and D, they have now a valid defense against him. Mechanically incomplete, but delivered instrument. Naintindihan nyo ba? But how about E? Yung naglagay ng maling amount. Instead of 1 million, naglagay siya ng 11 million. Can F collect from E if he's a holder in due course? The answer is yes. If he's a holder not in due course, can he still collect from E? The answer would still be yes. So, A, B, C, D, kung holder in due course, can collect. A, B, C, D, if holder not in due course, they cannot. He cannot collect. But as against E, whether F is a holder in due course or a holder not in due course, E is liable to him. Why? Because the signature of E appeared after the completion. Ang sinasabi lang dyan, if you want to enforce payment against those individuals whose signature appeared before the completion, you have to fill it up strictly in accordance with the authority given and within a reasonable time. CE, his signature did not appear before the completion. He was the one who filled it up. He was the guilty party. So, he should be held liable for placing the wrong amount, for not following the instruction that has been conveyed to him. Okay? So that will be our discussion on section 14. Let's now proceed with section 15. Section 15, that would be what we call as incomplete but undelivered instrument. Okay? Incomplete but undelivered instrument. Okay, so section 15, incomplete instrument, however, it is not delivered. Okay, so section 15 provides that when an incomplete instrument has not been delivered, it will not, if completed and negotiated without authority, be a valid contract in the hands of, take note of this, any holder. So it does not matter whether you're a holder in due course or a holder not in due course. You cannot be held liable if the instrument is an incomplete and undelivered instrument. Because as a defense, we consider this one as a real defense. One of delivery of mechanically incomplete and undelivered instrument. As a real defense, ibig sabihin, it is a valid defense against any holder. So whether you're a holder in due course or a holder not in due course, you cannot be, they have a valid defense against you. Okay, you cannot compel them to pay you, even if you're a holder in due course. Okay, because this is incomplete and undelivered instrument. So take for example the following. Okay, so take for example A here. Okay, so A, so he prepared the following promissory note. I promise to pay blank or order 1 million. Signed A. Okay, so that's the instrument. It is an incomplete instrument. What happened? After A prepared this instrument, he left this instrument on top of his signature, on top of his table. So iniwanan niya yan sa table niya. And later on, this instrument was discovered by John, okay, who entered the office, and he noticed this promissory note for the amount of 1 million, which was already signed by A. So ano ang ginawa ni John? John, okay, so has stolen that promissory note and thereafter placed his name as the payee of this instrument. Okay? So, anong ginawa niya? Nilagay niya dito yung pangalan niya. He placed his name, John. Okay? So, I promise to pay John or order 1 million pesos signed A. If ever John will now negotiate that instrument to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, and E is a holder in due course, can E now demand payment from A the amount of 1 million? The answer is no. Because it does not matter whether E is a holder in due course or a holder not in due course. Why? Because our instrument is an incomplete instrument. And it was not at all delivered by A to John. Rather, it was stolen by John. And he thereafter completed the instrument by placing his name as the payee. And John thereafter negotiated that to B to C to D to E, even if it's a holder in due course, he cannot collect anything from A. Because A is a valid defense against any holder. Sabi nga sa Section 15, it will not be a valid instrument in the hands of any holder. Okay? Because this is what we call as a real defense. A defense which is valid against a holder in due course or a holder not in due course. Section 16. This now refers to a complete instrument. However, it was not delivered. Okay? So, complete instrument, but it is not delivered. Take, for example, the following. Okay? So, take, for example, this promissory note. I promise to pay to P or order 1 million, signed A. So, this promissory note. I promise to pay to P or order 1 million pesos, signed A. If after A made this promissory note while it is in his possession, is this instrument a complete instrument? What do you think? I promise to pay to P or order 1 million pesos, signed A. Is it a complete instrument? Some of you might say that it is yes. But I'm telling you, while this instrument is still in the possession of A, it is not yet a complete instrument. Do not confuse yourself with a negotiable instrument from a complete instrument. Why is that? Because, because if I'm going to ask you whether this is negotiable or non-negotiable, obviously the answer is negotiable. But this is not. So is this a complete instrument? The answer is not yet. As long as it is in the hands of A, it is not yet a complete instrument. What's the reason behind? The provision of Section 16. Okay, sabi niya doon, every contract on negotiable instrument is incomplete and revocable until the delivery of the instrument for purposes of giving effect thereto. So as long as that instrument is still in the possession of the maker or of the drawer, as the case may be, it is not yet a complete instrument. It is still considered incomplete and revocable. Bakit yan incomplete? When in fact, it's already considered a negotiable instrument. Because as long as that instrument is still in the possession of the maker or of the drawer, they can still change or alter any of the entries in that instrument. That's the reason why it's considered as incomplete and revocable. It can still be changed. It can still be altered. And for purposes of our Section 16, you have to know at least these two individuals, immediate party and a remote party. Okay? Because Section 16, very easy lang naman, very simple lang naman ang Section 16. Section 16 simply creates a presumption of delivery. Okay? There is merely a presumption of delivery in Section 16. Take note, this presumption of delivery in Section 16, however, is applicable only if the instrument is a complete instrument, mechanically complete. It does not apply if the instrument is a mechanically incomplete instrument. So take for example, yung situation na halimbawa, omitted ito. Wala yang si P na yan. Okay? Omitted si P. For example, omitted yan. Yo, sorry. I promise to pay to blank or order 1 million. Signed A. Okay? So, ganyan po yan. If that will be the case, applicable ba yung sinasabi natin na presumption of delivery under Section 16? Take note, sabi ko nga, the presumption of delivery under Section 16 is applicable only if the instrument is a complete instrument. Kung merong, kumpleto siya lahat. Kung may omission dyan, okay, that presumption of delivery under Section 16 is not applicable. So, kailan nagkakaroon ng presumption of delivery under Section 16? There is presumption of delivery under Section 16 if this instrument is no longer found in the possession of A. So, for example, A, wala na sa kanya. Andun na kay B, or andun na kay C, or andun na kay D yung instrument. Ganito yung instrument natin, ha? Is there a presumption of delivery? None. Why? Because this instrument is an incomplete instrument. But, if the instrument is complete, kasi nga, merong pangalan dyan si B. Yan. So, I promise to pay to B or order 1 million pesos signed A. Complete instrument. And later on, this instrument is no longer found in possession of A. Nandun na yan kay B. Andun na yan kay C. Nalipat na rin yan kay D. That is the time that there is the presumption of delivery. And, you know, when it comes to presumption, there are two kinds of presumptions. Yung conclusive, tsaka yung rebuttable presumption of delivery. When is there conclusive presumption of delivery? When is there a rebuttable presumption of delivery? Well, it all depends upon the present holder. Kung halimbawa dito, si D, yung present holder natin, is a holder in due course, then as to him, there is a conclusive presumption of delivery. But if D is a holder not in due course, then the presumption of delivery created is only disputable or prima facie. Okay? So, alamin mo lang, ano bang klaseng holder yung present holder ko? Holder in due course ba yan? Or holder not in due course? Kapag holder in due course, conclusive ang presumption ng delivery. Kapag not in due course, then presumption of delivery is only disputable. So what? Kung conclusive or rebuttable, ano ba ang makikita ko doon? Halimbawa po, si D is a holder in due course. So for example, D is a holder in due course. What will happen if it's a holder in due course? Then A cannot later on claim that the delivery was only through mistake. That the delivery was not really for the purpose of negotiating the instrument. That delivery was not really for the purpose of issuing the instrument. Okay? Hindi niya pwedeng sabihin yung ganon because this is a holder in due course and as to him, presumption of delivery is conclusive. It is final. You cannot dispute that. You cannot contradict that. However, if D is a holder not in due course, pwede bang sabihin ni A na, oops, nagkamali lang pala ako. I did not issue the instrument for purposes of converting it into a negotiable instrument. Pwede ba sabihin yung ganun? Oh, pwede po yan. Because this is a holder not in due course. Or pwede ba niyang sabihin, oops, nagkamali po yung transfer. It should not have been given to B. Rather, it should have been given to another person, not B. Okay? Hindi yan. Iba yan. That is mere agent of mine. Mga ganun. Would that be a valid defense on the part of A? If D, the present holder, is a holder not in due course? The answer is yes. Why? Because insofar as D, he being a holder not in due course, the presumption of delivery is only disputable. It is not conclusive. It is not final. It can be contradicted. Okay? So yun po yung mga dapat tandaan pagdating dito sa Section 16. Tapos ang sinasabi nga rin po natin, pagdating dito sa Section 16, you have to take note also what we call as an immediate party and as a remote party. Sino ba ang immediate party? Sino ba ang remote party? Immediate party, if you have knowledge of a defect in the instrument, then you are considered an immediate party. If you have no knowledge of a defect in the instrument, then you are considered as a remote party. When we talk about immediate party or remote party in Section 16, we are not referring to distance. We are not referring to proximity. We are referring to privity or to the relationship of the parties. Okay, so ito yung mga sinasabi ko kanina na defenses. Defense na walang delivery or if there was delivery was not authorized. If delivery was authorized, it can still be shown that the delivery was conditional or for a special purpose. Mga ganun. These defenses are applicable only if the present holder is a holder not in due course. Kasi nga, rebuttable yung presumption ng delivery na na-create. Maggawa lang ako ng illustration para dito sa, ayun, meron pala, sa immediate party. Okay, so Mike to Peter or order Alpha, Ben, Charlie, or Delta. As between Mike and Delta, what is the nature of the relationship? Is it immediate or remote? By distance, Mike and Delta are considered apart. So they are remote, di ba? Magkalayo sila eh. But for purposes of Section 16, is Delta considered a remote party? Well, if Delta has knowledge of a defect in the instrument, then Delta, even if he is far from Mike, he will be considered as an immediate party because he has knowledge of a defect. But if Charlie Delta, by distance, they are immediate. Magkalapit lang sila. But if Delta has no knowledge of a defect in the instrument, then the relationship between Charlie and Delta will be considered to be remote. Okay? So, ganun po yun ha. Kung may alam ka sa defect, immediate party ka. Kung wala kang alam sa defect, then you are considered a remote party. Okay? So, distance, Charlie and Delta, they are immediate, but 16 yan, hindi 26. Privity, not proximity or distance. But if Delta has knowledge of the defect, then Alpha will be considered as immediate parties. Okay? So, Alpha and Delta. Okay? They will, by distance, they are apart. Pero if he has knowledge of a defect, then they will now be considered as immediate parties. Remote party by distance, okay? Distance, Peter and Delta, remote, magkalayo sila. But if he has no knowledge of a defect, then Charlie and Delta, they are already considered as remote parties. Okay? So, continuation for our section 16, conclusive presumption of delivery. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. If you are a holder in due course, okay? But if you are a holder not in due course, then presumption of delivery is only disputable. And ano yung mga reasons mo na pwede mong gamitin para sabihin na delivery is not for is disputable? Ito yun. Okay, there was no delivery. If there was delivery was not authorized. Or if there was delivery, the same was authorized, but it's conditional or for a special purpose. Again, ulitin ko, yung ito na presumption, applicable lang yan kung yung present holder is a holder not in due course. But if the present holder is a holder in due course, ito po yung rule natin. There is conclusive presumption of delivery if you are a holder in due course. Okay? So section 17, ito na yung mga requisites ng holder in due course, yung sinasabi ko kanina. Module 2, Unit 3, okay, section 17, construction where the instrument is an ambiguous instrument. Basic is the rule that you will apply the rule on interpretation only if the instrument is ambiguous. Because if the instrument is too clear to be misunderstood, there is no room for interpretation. Okay, so what? In passing, we'll just consider section 17, where the sum payable is expressed in words and also in figure. So if there is a difference between the amount in words and in figure, then which will prevail? It's the amount in words which will prevail over the words in over the amount in figures. Take for example the following. I promise to pay Peter or order 1 million. Tapos kung tingnan mo yung in figure niya, 1, 00, then it's 100,000 lang. So if there is a discrepancy, since there is a discrepancy between the two, ano yung amount na susundan? It would be the 1 million pesos, not this one. Okay? And how about this one? Where the instrument provides for the payment of interest without specifying the date from which interest is to run. Kailan tatakbo yung interest? Okay? Interest will run from the date of the instrument, and if the instrument is undated, from the date of issuance thereof. Why? Because of this. Where the instrument is not dated, it will be dated as of the date it was issued. Tapos kapag hindi na i-provide yung rate of interest, you compute that using the legal rate of interest. And what is now our legal rate of interest for loan, forbearance, or for the use of money? It is 6% per annum. And then where there is a conflict between the written and printed provision of the instrument, which will prevail? The written provision will prevail. For example, I promise to pay Peter or order 1 million pesos, signed Mike. Tapos yung 100, naka-intercalate lang yan, naka-insert lang yan. 100 million. So magkano ang babayaran ko? Is it 1 million or 100 million? It would be 100 million pesos. Okay? Because the amount, because the written provision will prevail over the printed provision. Yung printed, yung nako-computerize o kaya yung naka-type written. Okay? And then continuation for your section 17, where the instrument is so ambiguous that there is a doubt whether it's a bill or note, anong gagawin mo? Ito. I promise to pay Peter or order 1 million to Alex, sign Mike. Is this a bill or note? Promissory bill? Anong tawag dyan? It's a promissory note? Or is it a bill of exchange? You cannot automatically claim that this is a promissory note, even if there is the word promise. Bakit? Because there is a drawing. And you cannot also claim that this is a bill of exchange because there is a promise to pay. So what is our rule now? If that is the case, then under Section 17, sabi niya doon, you may treat it either as a promissory note or a bill of exchange at your own choosing. So kung ikaw, mas mabait sa'yo si Mike, edi promissory note na lang. Kung palagay mo, mas mabait sa'yo si Alex, then you can consider that as a bill of exchange. You consider who, as between the two, you have a better chance of collecting the amount of 1 million. And then the next one would be where a signature is so placed upon the instrument that it is not clear in what capacity the person making the same intended to sign, then is deemed to be an endorser. Kagaya nito, I promise to pay Peter or order 1 million, sign Mike. Mike here is the maker, right? Pero beside the signature of Mike, there is another signature, signed Alex. And Alex here is not a maker, he's not also a drawer. Then, what will be the nature of the liability of Alex? Under Section 17, sabi niya, then Alex will be considered as an endorser. Later on, makikita niyo siya, Alex here will be known as an irregular or an anomalous endorser. Why irregular or anomalous endorser? Because Alex affixed his signature in the instrument even prior to the issuance of the instrument. Negotiation or endorsement will be made after the issuance of the instrument. But in this situation, Alex affixed his signature even before the issuance. That's why he is known as an irregular or an anomalous endorser. And then the last one will be where an instrument containing the word I promise to pay is signed by two or more, then the liability will be considered as jointly and severally. Familiar kayo dito kasi obligations and contracts to. I promise to pay Peter or order 1 million, signed Mike, signed Miles. There are two individuals who affix their signatures. But if you notice, yung pronoun na ginamit is I, it's not we. I promise, signed by two or more, then the liability is jointly and severally, sabi niya. Or solidary. Pareho lang po yung jointly and severally tsaka sa solidary. Okay? Nagkaintindihan? But how about if instead of using the word, the pronoun I, ang ginamit mo na pronoun is we. We promise to pay Peter or order 1 million, signed Mike or Miles. What will be the nature of the liability? Is it joint or several? Or jointly or severally? Pare-pareho lang yun. Kapag joint, joint lang. O kaya several, okay lang. O kaya jointly or severally, pare-pareho lang po yun. The nature of the liability is joint. Kasi ang pronoun na ginamit is we. Pero kung I yan, it is solidary yan. It is jointly and severally. Okay?